Alrighty, what we're going to go on with now is just an introduction to LightShow Pro, okay, just how to actually set up a controller or an element inside LightShow. Something? No. Alrighty. When you open up LightShow Pro for the first time and you haven't set up any controllers or haven't got a sequence already set up, you'll be presented with this screen here. Normally it will bring up a pop-up box if you have created sequences before. However, in the first instance it won't. There's two different options that you've got up the top. You've got a new media sequence, so this is the ones if you want it to actually bounce along to music, you want to put your music attached to it, or you've got just an animation sequence, so it won't actually put any music there, it'll just allow you to run a silent show. Okay, so for purposes of demonstration, we're going to do a media sequence. Once you click on that, oh, good, it didn't crash. I've made past the time, haven't I? Yes, okay. So this year we've actually outdone last year. Excellent. Okay, it'll bring you up with the sequence configuration. It's as simple as pointing to whatever music file that you want and clicking a few other radio buttons. In this case here, just click on the open box and wherever your music is stored. Okay, so last year I obviously had my music stored in this location, and we'll use that one, just the track that I selected. You can put in all the other information down the bottom here if you want to. Realistically speaking, all that does is when you generate a video from within LightShow Pro, it'll actually overlay that information on the bottom. So if you're uploading it to YouTube and you want them to see exactly the file details, it's completely up to you if you want to use it. Otherwise, you've also got the sequence author name up the top. Same if you want to take some credit for your YouTube uploads that people keep ripping off. Next thing, all you can do is just move across to the sequence side of the house. If you've previously set up controllers, so you've already got your display set up, okay, you can just load the controllers from whatever display it might be. Okay, it saves you having to reconfigure every time you want to make a new sequence. You can also check here whatever intervals that you like. So you can set it to whatever timing intervals that you want using the custom interval, or you can just use the 1/10, half seconds, etc., etc. There's also some additional options here. So if your sound quality of your file is actually quite good and it has hi-hat or it has bass drum, snare, etc., etc., you can actually put the timing marks for those particular pieces of equipment or musical equipment. I found some issues with that at the moment where it's not actually, through this dialog box itself, not actually putting in those timing marks, but there are workarounds to actually highlight and insert them. So for this, what I'm going to do is just insert it at 1/10 of a second, click on our next, and it'll bring us to the voiceover. LightShow Pro has some professional voiceover intros and exits. Okay. Yeah, Ryan will fix up the... make sure that I've got no output coming there anyway, so... yeah. We'll try that now. Tough. Alrighty, we'll try it now. Okay, so you can actually have your intros for the particular sequence that you might be doing. Now, the intros are obviously Americanised. There was a thread on ACL for people throwing suggestions of what should be said during these intros. So there are some quite funny ones in there. There's also just the general, please look after your kids, watch out for cars, etc., etc. So if you want to use those inside there, it's quite beneficial to do. The last part there is obviously setting up your house or your picture of your house. This is the one that comes with the software itself, so that must be Minions file. What I'll do is I'll actually hopefully find a house of mine, if I can remember where I stored it all. Okay, so this is my house from last year. We'll just use it for now anyway. If the picture's too big, don't worry, it resizes it automatically for you. You can also change the darkness of the picture behind. As you can see there, it's fairly light. I took it at twilight. So you can actually just change how dark you want the picture. So in this case, I'll just make it relatively dark so we can actually see any element that we put in there. Once you've done that, you can save it as the default. So anytime you set up a new sequence, it'll actually bring up that picture at that contrast, etc. Just click Finish. And it probably won't look like it's actually done much, apart from it hasn't crashed. Okay. Was that touch wood? Alright. The next part, we're talking about adding That can't be me. It's probably running out of battery, one would think, maybe. Okay, so we'll go to adding our controllers. On the left upper of the box here, you'll actually see a whole different amount of controllers there. You've got DMX 512 controllers, and some have got names against them, some haven't. Your E131s, and obviously your law-based boards as well. So you can actually just select that, and all it does is it actually just brings across the actual channel counts that would normally be associated with that particular controller. Okay, just to save a little bit of hassle. You can just take a generic controller and change it to whatever controller type you like. Okay, so don't be concerned. What I'll do here is since it's close to my heart, I'll just move a Pixar or Pix88 into the system. So we're going to control some pixels. So all you need to do is click and drag straight across to the drag controller to begin. Brings up the little box here saying that we're looking at an E131 controller. Just click yes, because we can all adjust it now. There's no point changing any of the start channels or end channels at the moment, because you're going to do that later on anyway when you assign it to certain elements. So in this case, just click OK. And this is our setup phase for it. So what we can do here is we can retitle the controller itself. Now, for my displays, what I do is each element has its own, in a sense, controller or a group. Okay, so what I do is my gutters, so my left side gutters, it's a controller. Okay, even though it's all coming from the one controller, it's still listed as a controller. And it just makes it easier when you start into sequence. You can actually just focus on that one particular element, okay, another particular element, etc., etc. And we'll talk about grouping into layers afterwards, so you can put them all on at the same time, no matter where they are. Okay, so you can rename this. Now, since we've got the megatree just there, I thought I might just put a megatree in there using the same kind of setup. He's got 800 pixels. Okay, so we're going to look at 8 times 3 being 2400 channels. So what we'll do is we can rename it. Megatree, we can change whatever colour we want the controller to appear in our controller list in a minute, so we'll just make it nice and blue will do. We can see here that it's got 512 physical channels at the moment. For a pixel controller, that's not actually quite correct for what we want it to do, because that's showing the channels, but it's not breaking it down into the RGB. So we know that there's 170 pixels inside 512 channels or 510 channels. So what we need to do is actually change the controller type, okay, down to RGB light controller. Inside LSP, you can change the configuration if it's red, green, blue, red, blue, green, green, red, blue, etc., etc. Instead of going through the software of the controller itself, you can actually do it inside the software of LSP. So it's completely up to you. I would suggest just leaving it at its normal value and actually doing the changes inside your controller if you're using a Pix88, okay, because that makes it a lot simpler. Yes? It says Firefly R1, G1, B1, so I couldn't actually tell you what that means. I can only assume that maybe it's some sort of additional controller that they may have been trying. Maybe it's one of the Minion controllers.
Firefly was a type string too, I think.
Was it? Okay, so apparently Firefly might have been one of the types of strings previously. You can change your start channel here, but as I said before, you're probably best off just leaving it, because you're going to work out exactly where your channels are later on. So you click OK, tells you that the channels were successfully reset and the protocol or types changed. You'll notice now that these 512 channels just here, what's the matter? We haven't got the microphone, the webcam.
Oh, man. He's got two screen windows running.
Yeah, he's probably running. Turn off one of your streams. Oh, he'll hear it now, twice. Okay. So we know that a universe is 170 pixels. Now you can change it there if you like, okay, but since we're actually setting this controller up for that megatree just there, I know that there's 800 pixels on there. So what I do is I just change the logical channels there to 800, just click somewhere and you'll see that it actually changes the physicals or the RGB channels to 2400. That's exactly what we want. Alrighty, that's it. Basically set up. We don't need to adjust anything else. You can prefix channels if you like. Probably not the best option because it just changes how they list when you expand them. So what we can do now, we just click OK. Would you like to configure each of the added channels? If you want to sit there 2,400 times clicking OK, by all means, click yes. If you just want it to do it itself, click no. Okay, so we'll just let it do it itself. Now straight away you can see on the left-hand side here, these are all my channels. Okay, so if I keep scrolling down, we'll go all the way down to 2,400. Okay, and it looks kind of messy. You can shrink that down anyway by clicking on the coloured bar for the channel itself, and it brings it just straight back into a single line for that particular element. Okay, I can still make all the transitions that I might need with it closed. What we want to do is we want to actually attach it to layers. Now, one of the good things about LSP at the moment, and I don't know about the other software, but LSP enables you to actually utilise what we call transitions, so pre-configured RGB style effects. Okay, so you don't actually have to sit there and go fade in, fade out, change from red to green and things like that. You've actually got some additional effects that can be done without any input apart from the clicking of the button. Okay, it'll do it for you. But to achieve that, we actually need to associate channels with layers. Okay, and layers is how we actually join groups of controllers together to cause your effect for your house or your display itself. This is our layer area here. As you can see, there is no layers in there because it's telling me to click to add a layer. Okay, so to add a layer, all we need to do is right-click. And it'll bring you up with a little menu box. Click on Add New Layer. This is where you basically just type in whatever you want this layer to be called. So this is going to be my mega tree. Okay, what I normally do as well is I'll make a secondary layer called All. So all my lights, I'll attach them to that All layer so I can see everything at once. Okay, whereas if you just attach, say, the mega tree to a mega tree layer and you click on a different layer, you won't see the mega tree. So it's a good way of actually separating them if you just wanted to work on one particular element. So in this case, I'll call it mega tree. Okay, you can notice now up the top here that I've got a layer called mega tree. Nothing's attached to that at the moment, so if I click to actually select, and you can see it's selected because there's a little tick box there, sorry if you can't see that up the back, I've lost my channels. Okay, unclick it and it's come back again. It's because nothing's actually attached to that layer at the moment. So to attach that controller or the element to the layer, you right click on the controller itself, go down to Link Layers to Channels, and then you'll get a drop-down box of all layers that you've created. In this case, I've only got Mega Tree selected. Okay, so I've selected to the Mega Tree, and it's vanished. But if I activate the Mega Tree layer, I can see the channel, and I can expand it again. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. We can go through and we can add additional things as well. So if I just drag another controller just into the middle, start channel again, being 1, we'll just call it House. Won't even worry about setting anything up. I don't actually see it appear. I have to unselect. Your computer's talking to you, is it? Awesome. Okay, you don't actually see it there, so you have to unselect the Mega Tree because it hasn't been assigned to a layer yet. We can assign this to its own layer, or we can actually assign it to the Mega Tree layer. So link it to layer and we can add it to the Mega Tree if we want. In this case I don't want to, but I'll make a new layer called All. Uh-oh. 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 We're at the not responding phase. Have faith, I say. Have faith. Close that down. Oh, there we go. Yeah, save that. Okay, we're back. Okay, so to add a new layer, we'll add a new layer and we'll call this All, so I can attach all of my lights to there and run a transition over everything of my display. Okay, we've got the house. I want to link it to the All. You can link it to as many different layers as you like. Can't see the Mega Tree one, so what I can do is open the Mega Tree and also link that to All. Okay, now if I open up the All, I'll have both of my controllers in there. Does that make sense? Okay. That's how simple, well, to me, that's how simple it is to set up any element that you've got. If you've got one of your 3D stars, you just drag a controller for that particular star. Okay, if you've got 8 stars, you can have 8 separate controllers there, or you can link them all into one. It's your choice. It's a lot easier to control individual stars if you have individual controllers for it. Okay. If you need to, or once you've got this all set up now and you realise that your megatree is going to start at channel 1 and obviously finish at channel 4000, you can actually go through and actually configure the controller now. Did I say 4000 then? 2400. So to configure the controller for the individual channels, all you do is you go back in, right click, go to configure controller, and it brings you up to the dialog box that we've seen before. If you click on the channels itself, okay, it brings you up another box. Now this box here, as I said, you can renumber the channels, you can name the channels and things like that. So what we want to do is we want to renumber it. If we wanted it to start at channel, or say the second universe being 500 or channel 513 onwards, okay, what we can do is actually put in 513. Okay, click OK and it automatically renumbers that controller from 513 up to 2,400 channels. Okay, so I can do that, happens instantaneously, and it's all done. All right. Now it's not in our display yet. Although we've loaded the controller, it's not attached to anything, and this is where we just start to draw elements. So to draw an element, all you do is you right-click on the controller that you want to draw. So in this case, we want to do the megatree. Okay, right-click, and you go down to Draw Controller Channel Images. It'll open up your picture. Using the mouse scroll button, you can zoom in, zoom out. Okay, so we'll zoom in, and we can see the house outline, and I want to place a megatree. If you're using pixels, unfortunately, the items down the bottom here, okay, and there's some good items down there, being candy canes and spheres and things like that, they're only set up as single channels, I guess you could say. Can't run pixels through those. However, up the top here, you've got all your draw tools that you could possibly want. You've got arch, tree, straight line, freehand, etc., etc. So you can actually do whatever you like. In this case, I'm going to do a megatree. So we click on the tree one here, left click, and it changes my icon to a tree outline. And then all we do, just a typical click and drag to actually size it to whatever we like. Okay, so in this case I'm just going random, and it tells me, or it asks me, do I want to split this item across multiple channels? Simple answer for pixels is yes, you do. Okay, if it was all just one continuous string, I guess you could say, or you're only doing a couple of small elements there, you could probably have it as single, but for pixels you definitely want multiple channels. So you click on yes. And this is how you can attach it to the controller now. This is what makes it easy when you set up each individual element as a controller, because it titles the channels that you've already set forth. Yeah, what was it? Sully. He's a smart man. Back to dancing. Excuse me. All right, so if you actually set up controllers for each individual element, it'll prefix that channel or that controller prior to. You'll see here that I've got a start channel. Again, sorry if you can't see that at the back. Clicking on the drop-down box will show all the channels that I've currently set up in my display. Okay. Good thing is, I want to start at that channel 1 for the megatree. So I click on that. I want it to finish off, obviously, as the last channel for the megatree. So all I do is I use the drop-down box and I find where megatree finishes, which is right there. Okay? That will allocate that entire megatree to purely that one controller. You've got multi-pixel per section. Okay, for ease of use, we're actually going to change that to single pixel per sections. Okay, and it enables us to actually see it a lot clearer. There's another reason behind it, I can't think of it at the moment, but I've always gone single. Click OK. Good thing about megatrees is it lets you configure, okay, how it actually sets up. Do the strings start at the bottom and go to the top and come back down, or do they start at the top to the bottom, etc., etc.? Does it go clockwise or anti-clockwise? Okay, and using the pictures here, it enables you to actually determine. Now, Rob's tree there starts at the bottom. Okay, it goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. Each string is 50 pixels. Okay, so he's got 2 strings per universe, so there's 100 pixels per output. So what we need to do, we started at the bottom, so I click on pattern B. Doesn't really matter which direction we choose here because I'm going to say it's going clockwise. Channels per string, okay, channels should probably be written as pixels per string, not channels, because channels would mean it would be 150. Okay, and we don't want that. So we're going to change it to 50 pixels per string, and I know that there's 16 strings there, okay, because he told me he's got 8 outputs, 2 strings per output. So we change that to 16. And what this actually does is it actually maps this controller and this element into basically a matrix, so it understands exactly where every pixel is in time and space. So we click OK, and it says the matrix map was created, and it's titled Tree Matrix, and it gives me a date and a time. So if I decided I wanted to change some certain things later on, or that particular matrix didn't actually work correctly, I remap it, and it gives me a brand new date and time, so I know which one I need to use. I don't know how you delete them though. Okay, so straight away it's changed my picture there. Apologies if you can't see it. Changes my picture there to actually resemble 16 strings for that megatree. It's as simple as that. We've added an element and we've attached that now to the megatree controller. Once you've done that, you just click OK. Alright. To add an effect onto any of this now, you can either go through, open up the 2,500 channels, 2,400 channels, and go through and choose an on command here for this one, or a ramp up for that section, or whatever it might be. That's going to be very time consuming. Or you could actually use transitions, okay, or macros as well, joining multiple transitions together. To do that, we've got our layers. Okay, so with the layer itself, what I'll do is I'll just do a short one since it decided to take its time generating last time. Using my megatree line here, not the all one, but the megatree, all I do is I click and drag. Okay, and you can hear the sound in the background slightly. Okay, and you drag it to whatever length or however long the duration that you want. So in this case, I'm doing about 6 seconds worth. Once you release the click, it asks you a basic question. Do you want to make this a transition, or do you want to make it a macro effect? Now, transitions are single effects, okay, that will last that entire duration. Macros are basically multiple transitions or effects, one after the other or on top of each other. So you get some really cool, interesting effects from it, okay? In the meantime, all I'll do is a transition. Okay, so you click on transition, click OK, and it brings you up the dialog box again. It's quite busy. You've got some different drop-down boxes here, one being RGB transitions, okay, and you can see some effects happening on the side. That's what's actually going to be mapped across to the megatree, okay, or if you don't like those ones, you can go to live transitions. Okay, live transitions have some additional effects, different colours and things like that. If you wanted to make your own, you can actually import AVI files into there, okay, and it will actually map your AVI files, okay, onto your tree. Say again? This software. I think the $249 for the advanced, which takes you up to about 8,000 channels, or $359 or something similar to that for the professional, up to 32,000. Before Monday night, yep, you'll get, for the advanced version, you'll get the pro version. Okay, but you have to go through Fast Eddie for that. Okay, so indicate to me if you want here, but we'll all go through Fast Eddie and he'll authorise it all. Okay, so you can do all that. So I'm just going to do the flames on it, okay, because it will probably stand out a little bit more. You've got a couple of different options here. I know that the duration of the effect is going to be 5.5 seconds. Okay, you can change it there if you like, stretch it out, bring it shorter. It also asks for how many frames that you want over the duration of that effect. Now, going 1 frame per second, you won't see much movement. Okay, what I tend to do is I aim for about 5 frames per second, or for some fast-moving ones, 10 frames per second. Okay, but I wouldn't go too much further than that, or otherwise it's going to be extremely resource hungry on your computer, and you probably actually won't see the effect when it goes to the lights themselves. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to stretch it up to 25 frames. Move down, you can go map to object or map to stage. Now the object is that tree. Okay, that is the object. Or, if you map to stage, it'll actually determine where you've placed that controller in your display on the screen. Okay, so if you're doing a wipe effect across your whole display, you map it to stage, it knows where everything is and it'll automatically adjust so it all turns off at the right times. It's little things like that. In this case, we've made a matrix object. Okay, and you see down the bottom here a channel matrix map. What you need to do is click on that, and lo and behold, I've got all these tree matrices. Obviously I did a couple at home just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. But I look at today's date being the 22nd, okay, moving across, it doesn't say the 22nd, it's got the 23rd though, so who's been playing around? Oh, my date's out, my time's out, who cares? Was that you? Oh, you're on my computer. Okay, we're choosing that one, and just click on OK. Now this is where it could crash and you could laugh at me, so click on OK and it goes through and it automatically calculates everything that we want, the colour changes, and you can see that it's actually making the effect there. Okay, wow, that was fast, it's finished. If I open that up, you can see that's my mega tree right there. Okay, that's all the colours associated with it. You've got a preview window down in the bottom left-hand corner here. This can be detached, okay, so it can actually run free, which is probably the better way of running it. I run dual monitors at home, okay, so I have this on one monitor so I can actually work on my sequence on the other, so I don't have to keep minimising, opening, minimising, opening. Okay, so for this, same deal again, it's just a click and drag to extend your window size, and mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down to make it bigger. Okay, so I know that I've put the mega tree just here, so we'll just leave it at that size. Wrong one. If you highlight this waveform there, you can actually just play that continuous section, okay? You can either play the whole song, play and then stop any part of the song that you like, or if you highlight a particular phase of the waveform, you can get it to loop over and over again, just so you can see if your effects that you want are actually what you want displayed. Okay, in this case, I'm just going to play it once. So we've got 6 seconds worth of audio, and I think it's Gangnam Style at the moment. I apologise. Okay. So, fingers crossed. Actually, there's 2 different visualisers on here, sorry. You've got the visualiser that you see now, but you've also got a playback visualiser which will take up the whole screen itself. It will actually activate when you press play. Okay, there has been some issues with that at the moment where you're getting grey screens for it. I don't know what's causing that. It definitely can't be the computer power, it's got to be something in the software itself. So this way is, again, less resource intensive. So if we click on play, didn't I touch it? Open Gangnam Style. Or did I delete it, did I? Uh-oh, it's going to cause me a lie now. If Rob was here, he'd be paying me out big time. Yeah. Hopefully Vixen does too. No? Okay. We'll see. Yeah, that's a good effect then. Okay, so Megatree's in there at the moment, so playback visualiser would actually help. There we go. Okay, so you can see that that's the fire effect inside the Megatree. Clicking on spacebar will also play and pause, so just highlight that. Use the repeat function and play. Okay, so you can see that that's the flame work itself. It looks fairly impressive, especially when you see it live. Okay. The next thing that you can actually do for that, if you wanted that to be longer or shorter, you can actually just click on the ends, okay, extend it out, okay, shrink it down, or whatever you like, and it'll automatically readjust for you. Okay, it will change. Keep the same setting, so it might still be the 25 frames, but it will just extend it out over the time that you actually like. So it's clearing the effects, it will regenerate, okay, and then it will apply the effects. So there you go, I've just extended it out to 7.5 seconds. If you figured out during a display that you actually didn't like the flames, that's fine as well. You don't need to delete that actual transition. Simply double click on it and you can change whichever transition that you want for it, and all it will do, it will actually regenerate the effect. Okay, that's actually working really fast today. Good LSP, good LSP. Okay, same deal again. So you can see there it's actually going through that retro style one. Okay. Is there any questions with that? I'm not going to go any further into depth at the moment. That's going to be tomorrow's kind of lesson. But yep, no, that's still at the 25, but I extended it out by another 2 seconds as well. So what I'll do is I'll just find one that's quite fast moving. Actually, I'll use the flame one again, and I'll drop that down to 7 frames, just for bits and giggles. Got to remember there's kids in the room. Okay, so this is 1 per second, and as you can see, there's very, very little movement. Okay, whereas I'll pump it right up now to, let's go, yeah, 80 will do. Okay, let it regenerate. It changes the effect timings as well. You just want me to crash this, don't you?
No,
okay. I changed it to something else then, but yep.
Is it mapped from the front or the top view?
Front view. Yeah, it's all mapped from the front view, or as you see the AVI file itself. So all it does is it will actually attach it to a vertical string, okay, or even a horizontal string, front view. Okay, I think I changed the effect itself, but so you can see there it's a lot more fluid in its movement, being 10 frames a second. Okay, so is there any other questions in reference to setting up a controller? Yep.
Well, to get a good effect on the thread.
Yep.
All three.
Okay. Well, I mean, tomorrow what we'll actually see is Rob's tree as it's set up there, okay, doing these effects. Okay, that's what we're actually aiming for through Vixen, LoRa and LSP. So the kind of things that you're actually realistically going to need is some sort of pixel controller. Is that the kind of stuff that you're actually after? Yep. Okay. Well, obviously looking at Rob's there is, obviously there's a good starting point. Okay. So you're going to need the controller and the power for starters. You're going to need enough. Well, you've got to understand how many inputs you need for that. He's got 16 strings, so 8 separate inputs, and determine how many pixels per output. Okay. You're also going to need the additional cable, because if you've got a run of lights that finishes at the top, you're going to obviously need either injection at the top with the cable running down, so that's another additional thought. What else am I missing realistically? You definitely could. You could make that as many strings around there as you like. No, you can have whatever you like. What you've got to be careful of, though, is if you have too many pixels too close together, you're going to start washing the colours or the intensity out. It's not like the TVs that, the pixels are really close together. These are very bright. So if we have them too close together, you're not going to get the effect that you're actually after. On saying that, though, you go to the pixel matrices, or matrices. The correct terminology? That sounds good anyway. Okay, you're going to want those somewhat closer together, because the closer you have them together, you'll be able to actually get a better definition of whatever you're showing up there. And, Nutcracker at the moment, he's actually, Schmegan's actually having videos playing on Matrix. Okay, just simple videos, and it's really looking good. So, to answer your question, It can be as full or as empty as you like. Myself, I'm thinking of a 3D mega tree this year, but I think I'm actually going to go for just a 2D ray tree, so I can actually get that effect, sort of like a picture effect, like Eddie's. If you've seen Eddie's display from last year, he's got a 2D ray tree, and he has text on there. He has a couple of pictures coming down, similar to his matrix. Okay, so how long's a piece of string is pretty much what it comes down to for there, and how many controllers you can attach to it. Okay, as I put up before, we're looking, I'm not sure what these ones themselves cost, but for a 50 count string, okay, you're probably looking at about, correct me if I'm wrong here guys, about $15 to $18, okay, for 50 pixels, okay, in string format. 16 strings there, so 16 times 15. That's just for the strings themselves. Chuck in the controller on top of that. That's controlled at the moment by a P12, I think. Don't quote me, but I think it's a P12. So there's another 200 and. No, well, what it normally is in between the nodes themselves or the pixels themselves is usually about 10 centimetres. Okay, but never believe the Chinaman. Okay, you can, and some people have actually, requested certain lengths, and they haven't actually been that exact length. Okay, maybe it's lost in translation, or maybe it's the fact that he doesn't make them himself. He gets a warehouse to make them on his behalf. Okay, and maybe the instructions aren't going there. So usually it's about 10 centimetres, but you can make it to whatever you like. That's why I want to go for a ray tree, 5 volt. I can have, a pixel every 3 centimetres or so. Okay, individual pixel every 3 centimetres, so I can get a better effect, in my opinion. There's nothing saying that you can't do a 3D mega tree either using strip. Okay, how are you going to hold that strip in place and so it's not blowing around and bending and kinking? That's a different story. People have got some ideas with that anyway.
I just thought it from Ray, 24 strings, and it was made in 42 pixels each one and 16 metres apart. Got it from him and it was perfect.
No issues?
Yeah, no.
Excellent. So maybe it just comes down to how you're actually requesting stuff through Ray. Maybe it just comes down to who's making those strings that day at the manufacturer. It's a little bit of pot luck. I know, and if you look on the forum, there's been some guys that have ordered it. They wanted it at 8 centimetres or 10 centimetres between nodes, and it came out at 12 and 6. And so, very good, very good. Whether it was lucky, I doubt it. I think Ray's actually getting really good. I think he's getting a lot better for us because there's a lot of people, not just in Australia, but obviously over in the States, that are utilising his services more and more because he has become more trustworthy to us. Okay, well, it's hard. No one's ever met this person. Well, I don't think anyone's ever actually met this person face to face, or these people. Okay, okay, but he understands what we're doing, what we're after, and he's really keen to assist us now, even in his broken English. So, and that's where the translation comes into effect. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Ray's probably, Ronald McDonald in a sense. Many different people make up Ronald, okay, including Julia. I didn't say that. Okay, but yeah, I think it just comes down to your liaison and your conversing with Ray to get what you want, and hopefully, you get it at a good rate and the correct lengths, etc. Okay. So far, I haven't had any issues, but I haven't had any custom stuff made. Any other questions at all? Wow, that's great. My head's killing me. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to move on to the Vixen demonstration, but we might have a 5-minute break. Yep, so you can get set up and prepped. Tomorrow, for those that are going to be here, obviously all 3 of these softwares again will go into a little bit more depth on how to actually manipulate or utilise the software in a little bit more of an advanced level, so it gives you a stepping stone for it. Okay, so we'll move into the macro transitions tomorrow and things. Okay, so if there's no other questions, have yourselves a break, and we'll be back shortly.